Hey, this is Dr. Barry. In this short video, I want to talk to you about something very important for people just beginning the ketogenic way of eating, and that's the top 7 beginner complaints on the ketogenic diet, the top 7 side effects that you might experience temporarily when you start the ketogenic way of eating. Now, if you know someone who's just beginning to start keto or the ketogenic diet, then please share this with them on their social media. Send them an email, send them a private message with a link to this video because this will help so much. So many people are starting now. It's really starting to catch fire and it makes me very happy. But if a newcomer to this way of eating has too much trouble up front, they may give up before they are able to reap the wonderful benefits that we all know are coming if you'll just stick with the ketogenic diet. So please share this with them so that they don't give up before they also get to reap the good benefits that you and I have already maybe reaped. So let's talk about the top 7 side effects that people have with the ketogenic way of eating. Now, let me tell you right up front, the ketogenic diet is a very natural diet. It does not cause any long-term vitamin, mineral, or nutrient deficiencies. There are some gurus out there who will say that it does and that you should take their supplements, which they happen to make money off of. I don't think that any of that's necessary. I don't think you need protein supplements, collagen supplements, vitamin and mineral supplements long-term. I don't think you need any of the keto products long-term at all. None of that stuff's necessary to do a good, proper, very rewarding ketogenic way of eating. Okay, but now for the first 1 to 4 weeks, you may need some things, and I'm going to go through the list of the top 7 complaints. And I'm going to tell you what you can do to combat that so that you don't suffer very much from this way of eating. Because the main thing that I love about this way of eating is that you don't have to suffer if you do it right. Okay. Now, the most common by far, and I actually poll people on my Facebook page. I don't know if you've been to my Facebook page, but you can check it out. I have a ton of very helpful health and ketogenic information on my Facebook page. But number 1 is the keto flu. Now, this is not really the flu. This is not contagious at all. It's a combination of 2 things that happen when you start eating a good, strict ketogenic diet. It doesn't mean that the ketogenic diet's bad for you. It just means that your body's adjusting. So there are 2 things taking place. First of all, a lot of people don't realize, and you may already know this or you may not, but we actually have a sort of addiction to sugars and carbs and simple carbohydrates and starches. They actually stimulate the pleasure centers in our brain and stimulate dopamine secretion. Just like if you were addicted to some narcotic or street drug, you get the same kind of dopamine release when you eat that bagel or that honey bun or that ice cream cone. That's why we love it so much and we call it comfort food, right? But you've got to break that addiction. You've got to break that cycle, and that's going to hurt for a few days. And so if an alcoholic is trying to get off alcohol and he's not feeling well, then the last advice you would ever give him is, hey, you should take a shot of whiskey, right? It'll make you feel better. Well, yeah, short term it would, but that doesn't mean that he should do that, right? He needs to stick with it until he's broke the alcohol addiction, just like you need to stick with it until you've broke the sugar and starch and simple carb addiction. So that's one reason you feel bad for a few days. And the only thing you can do about that is just stick with it. That'll go away in a few days. Okay. The second thing that happens is a lot of times when you start the ketogenic way of eating, your body's very inflamed at the beginning. And so the ketogenic diet is very uninflammatory. And so almost immediately the swelling from the inflammation in the various parts of your body will start to go down. And that's a very good thing. You want that. But it also promotes a lot of urination for a few days. And a lot of people will lose several pounds of body weight, and it's not fat they're losing the fluid. But the way the human kidney works is you're going to pee out a lot of your electrolytes as well, your sodium, potassium, magnesium. And if you're already borderline deficient in magnesium, as most Americans are, even before they come to keto, then you're going to have some problems. And so the way to fix the keto flu is to, first of all, stick with it so you get past the sugar and starch addiction. Secondly, you need to replace your electrolytes by eating lots of good unprocessed sea salt, and then also you may need new salt, NuSalt, which is potassium chloride, or light salt, Lite salt, which is potassium chloride. And I'll put a link down below so you know exactly what I'm talking about there. Those will replace your sodium, your potassium, and then if you need some magnesium as well, a lot of people that helps them get through the few days of the keto flu as well. Now, after a few days, after you're over your keto flu, you don't. That's not something you keep getting as you do keto. You get all the minerals and vitamins and nutrients you need from the ketogenic diet. So you're not always going to have to supplement those things. Okay, that's just in the first few days or few weeks. Secondly, is muscle cramps. Now, like I said earlier, most Americans are deficient in potassium, and most people don't get enough or in magnesium, I'm sorry. And then most people also don't get enough potassium either. And so when you come to the ketogenic way of eating and you're getting rid of the inflammatory fluids and peeing out your electrolytes temporarily, then you may have muscle cramps. And the quickest and easiest way to do that, fix that, is to get some magnesium. And I've got links on my Facebook page to the magnesium supplements that we recommend. You won't have to do that forever because the ketogenic diet's actually very rich in magnesium if you're eating it properly. But for the first few days, you may need that because you're coming to keto deficient in magnesium. And then the second thing is the products we talked about just a second ago, the new salt or the light salt, to get your potassium and chloride. And as you increase your potassium intake and your magnesium intake, the cramps will go away. Okay. And that also is a short-term problem with the ketogenic diet. The next thing is constipation. I hear a lot of people complain about that for the first few weeks on keto. And so there's two things going on. You come to keto from the standard American or standard Canadian, UK, Australian way of eating, you've been eating a ton of carbs, right? And so you've basically selected for bacteria in your gut that love carbs. And one of the things you're going to have to break is you're going to have to decrease the number of carb-loving bacteria in your gut and increase the number of keto-loving bacteria in your gut. And so for the first few days or few weeks, you may have some constipation. Okay. If you do have constipation, there's several things you can do about that. One is you need to get a good quality probiotic from a health food store. Okay. You do not need to buy a probiotic from one of the big box stores like China Mart. Those are they're no, you don't want that. They've been on the shelf for months in the warehouse for months. There's no living bacteria in those. There's no way that's possible. So don't waste your money there. Go to a good health food store where you can trust the proprietor and ask him about a good quality probiotic. And you'll usually find those in the refrigerator, in the cooler. And so a good probiotic is going to help to balance your gut bacteria and help the constipation go away. Another thing you can do is take a magnesium supplement. And if you're having constipation, you'll want to take magnesium citrate because it tends to loosen up the bowel movements. And I'll put a link down below for that if you want to check that out. But that's a great thing you can do. And always take your magnesium at bedtime because it tends to help you sleep a little bit too. You wouldn't want to take that in the morning and then be sleepy when you could have used that benefit at bedtime that night, right? And then another thing you can take that will help with the constipation is a good quality, hopefully homemade bone broth. That actually really helps to calm down the gut and help the gut adjust to the ketogenic way of eating a lot faster. The next thing is related is diarrhea. Some people don't get constipation. They get diarrhea when they switch to keto. And especially someone without a gallbladder or someone who's had a gastric bypass, they may have a little extra trouble with diarrhea just because they can't process as much fat as they're eating when they start keto. That's temporary. Usually your liver will ramp up the bile production and then you'll be just fine. Sometimes you'll need to back off on the fat for a few days if you have a lot of diarrhea and you had one of those conditions, and then slowly increase the fat so that your liver has time to increase bile production. Also, again, the probiotics come in very handy if you're having the diarrhea because you're trying to encourage keto-loving bacteria and get rid of the carb lovers. And so a good quality probiotic from a health food store will help that. Also, again, bone broth will tend to calm the gut. Real bone broth, by the way. I'm not talking about the kind you get at the big box store at China Mart. That's not real bone broth. I'm talking about real homemade bone broth, and there are multiple recipes on the internet that you can Google to find out about that. Now, if you have the diarrhea and you're already taking a magnesium supplement, you may need to decrease the amount of the magnesium supplement because, as we said earlier, magnesium will tend to loosen your bowel movements. The next thing is fatigue. So when you start eating keto, you're going to have the diuresis from getting rid of all the inflammation. That means peeing off that extra fluid, and you'll pee off your sodium, your potassium, and magnesium. And sometimes that, in some people, makes them very fatigued and droopy and tired. And again, the way you're going to fix that is by replacing your electrolytes. This is not a permanent thing with the ketogenic diet. Most people who've been keto for a while will brag to you about how much energy they have. And so don't think this is permanent. Also, you won't have to take these supplements forever. But again, you'll need a good unprocessed sea salt. You'll need new salt or light salt. And then you might need some magnesium, a magnesium supplement. And I'll link to those below. Now, another complaint that I hear, and this is actually very rare, but I hear this sometimes and it worries me a little bit, is palpitations. I feel my heart beating really fast or really strongly, or it's beating irregularly, right? Now, this again is almost certainly related to the shifts in potassium and magnesium that you're having, but it could also be a more worrisome medical thing. And I don't think that the ketogenic diet causes any worrisome heart problems. I think the ketogenic diet's very good for your heart in multiple ways, but it may have uncovered a pre-existing heart issue that you weren't aware of, right? And so if you have palpitations when you start keto, then you need to up your potassium and you need to up your magnesium, like we talked about earlier, but you also need to go see your doctor one time and let them check your heart and make sure that there wasn't a pre-existing heart condition that your carb addiction and staying high on sugars and starches all day kind of just made you ignore, right? The next thing is bloating. A lot of people, when they start eating whole foods like the ketogenic diet is made of, their body's like, what the heck is this? I'm used to eating processed, lots of processed carbs. What is all this whole food, this green stuff and this meat? I'm not used to this. And so it can take a little minute before your gut bacteria get used to eating that. You've got to get rid of your carb loving bacteria and get the keto loving and the meat loving bacteria built up in your gut so that they'll know what to do with this new way of eating that you're starting to do. And so the two things that will help with the bloating is just give it time. And then also the good quality probiotic we talked about earlier, that'll help with that a lot. And then also a good quality, preferably homemade bone broth will also help calm your gut down and help to select for the good keto-loving bacteria so that this will be a short-lived problem. Now, that's the top 7 complaints that I hear people when they start keto that they complain about. And again, I'll tell you, the ketogenic diet is the most nutritionally complete diet that I've ever recommended as a doctor. You will have no vitamin or mineral deficiencies once you have adapted to the ketogenic way of eating. So don't think that there are long-term deficiencies or problems from this diet. There are not. So now, if you really enjoyed this video, please take a second and consider clicking the subscribe button and the little bell right beside it. That way you'll get a notification every time I get a bright idea, okay? And then also, if you really love my videos and they've helped your life in some small way, click on the Patreon link down below and you can throw a buck or two my way, and it gives me and Nisha more time to make more videos just like this for you. And to all my patrons, I want to say thank you so much. This video is due in large part due to your help. Thanks a lot. This is Dr. Barry. I'll see you next time.